The pain hit me like a freight train. 1 minute, I was standing there, trying to reason with him, with them, and the next, I was on the floor, a white-hot agony ripping through my abdomen. "Tom, please," I gasped, my voice a pathetic, strangled sound. "Something's wrong." He looked down at me, his face a mask of indifference. Standing next to him, she smirked, a cruel little twist of her lips that burned into my memory. "You're probably just being dramatic, Emma," he said, his voice cold, dismissive. Like always, they stepped over me. Over me! Over our baby! And walked out the door. The last thing I saw was the door clicking shut. A final, echoing betrayal that slammed the door shut on my life. My name is Emma, or at least it was. Before the fall, before Tom, before her, before everything shattered, I remember being so excited about getting the job at Mason Trading. A lawyer's assistant. Not exactly glamorous, but it was a foot in the door. The office was a whirlwind of ringing phones and frantic energy, a world away from the sleepy little town I'd grown up in. And then I met Tom. He was in purchasing, always barking into his phone, always stressed. He had a way of rolling his eyes that I found strangely endearing. "Suppliers," he'd mutter, "tough day." I was new, lost, overwhelmed. "You could say that every day is a battlefield here," I said, half smiling. He noticed me watching, rolled those eyes. "Yeah, just started this week. I'm Emma, Tom. Welcome to the madness. Don't let the chaos scare you off." Lunch became our thing. The cafeteria was huge and confusing, but Tom knew all the shortcuts. He was funny, sarcastic, and didn't pull any punches. He told me about his overbearing mother, his dreams that he somehow was never living up to. "You haven't met my mom yet, but brace yourself," he warned one evening, beers in hand after a particularly long day. "She has this idea of the perfect woman, and trust me, no one's good enough." Our friendship shifted, the unspoken turning into something undeniable. A year of dating, and then the proposal. Simple, perfect. We bought an apartment, a tiny little place funded by my grandmother's savings and what we could scrape together. It felt like everything was clicking into place. Life wasn't perfect, of course. We bickered about the milk, about the cleaning, normal couple stuff, until it wasn't. The exhaustion came first. A bone-deep weariness that clung to me no matter how much I slept. Then the nausea. Even the smell of coffee, my lifeline, made me want to retch. One morning, dragging myself out of bed felt like climbing a mountain. I couldn't ignore it anymore. I made an appointment with Dr. Lena. The waiting room was a torture chamber of old magazines and buzzing fluorescent lights. Finally, my name was called. "Doctor." Lena was all business, sharp and to the point. After a few questions and some tests, she looked at me, a small smile playing on her lips. "Well, Emma," she said, "congratulations are in order. You're pregnant." Pregnant. The word hung in the air, heavy, foreign. "Are you sure?" "Quite sure," she said, handing me the test results. "But you need to be careful. Your body is signaling a few warning signs. Nothing too scary, but you need rest, less stress. Rest. Less stress." Easier said than done. My mind was racing. How would Tom react? This wasn't something to tell him over the phone. This needed a face-to-face. That evening, walking through the door of our apartment, I found Tom sprawled on the couch, glued to his phone. "Tom," I said, my voice shaky, "we need to talk. I went to the doctor today. We're going to have a baby." His face changed. Not the joyous, tearful reaction I'd dreamed of. Disappointment, maybe even anger. "A baby?" "Emma, it's not great timing. You know, we haven't even traveled like we talked about. And a baby, that's a huge change." A pain stabbed through my heart. "I know it's unexpected, but it's also kind of amazing, right? We're going to be parents." He ran his hands through his hair, a sure sign he was stressed. "I don't know, Emma. It's too much. It's too soon. Too soon for a family with me?" No, that's not what I mean. I thought we'd have more time. Just us two. The conversation spiraled, Tom citing bad timing, me desperately trying to paint a positive picture. By the end of it, he was closed off, and I was left feeling utterly alone, clutching news that should have brought us closer, but instead was driving us apart. The next day, I went to see Mr. Harlow, my boss. I needed to ask for accommodations, given the doctor's orders. Mr. Harlow, the first need to ask for a change. I'm pregnant, and there are some complications. Could I possibly work from home? Mr. Harlow, always more understanding than I gave him credit for, didn't hesitate. Of course, Emma. We'll set up everything you need at home. Take care of yourself and the little one. I walked home, hoping Tom had softened, but when I told him about the remote work arrangement, his reaction was frigid. So, you're just going to be home now? What about all the plans we had? The restaurant openings? Concerts? I thought you'd be happy. I found a solution to keep the stress down, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. Emma, it's like you're not even listening. I said it's too soon for all this. I went to bed early that night, feeling the distance between us grow like a chasm. Lying there, the reality of my situation sank in. This journey was going to be tougher than I'd imagined. The air in our apartment felt heavier these days, like each day was a cloudy one, even if the sun was shining outside. Tom's affection seemed to drain away as quickly as it came. He grew more distant, more irritated by the small ways my life had to change because of the pregnancy. He said he felt neglected, like he was second to my health and the baby's needs. His mother, Mrs. Blackwell, was no help. She called one afternoon, her voice as cold as the winter wind. Emma, this child, it's not the right time. You should be focusing on supporting Tom, not dragging him into fatherhood. I clenched the phone tighter, fighting the sting in my eyes. It's not like I planned this by myself, Mrs. Blackwell. It's our child, not just mine. There are options, you know. You're just choosing the most selfish one. Her words sliced through me, leaving me feeling hollow inside. As if that wasn't enough, Tom's behavior started changing even more. His cologne was masked by another scent, a woman's perfume, unfamiliar and sweet, clinging to his clothes. The first time I smelled it, I convinced myself it was a mix-up at the dry cleaner, but then it happened again and again. He also started staying out late, mumbling about needing to catch up on work. His weekends were booked up with sudden business trips. It was too much to chalk up to coincidence. I held my tongue, not wanting to believe the worst, but the seed of doubt had been planted. I couldn't ignore it anymore. That Saturday, when Tom mentioned another business trip, I reached out to Mike, an old classmate who now worked as a private investigator. We met at a small cafe, the kind where you could talk without every table overhearing your conversation. Mike slid a folder across the table. I got what you asked for, Emma. You sure you want to see this? I nodded, not trusting my voice, and opened the folder. The photos were clear, unmistakable. There was Tom, and with him, a woman I recognized from his office. A new hire he'd mentioned passing. A name flashed in my mind, Olivia. Emma, I'm sorry, Mike said, his voice low. There's video too. It's consistent. My heart sank to the soles of my feet. Thanks, Mike. I needed to know. I went home numb, carrying the folder like it was made of lead. As I turned the key in the lock, the door swung open. Mrs. Blackwell stood there, her face twisted in disapproval. I came to see how you are. Tom said he's worried about you all alone here. Her eyes darted around suspiciously. I know about Tom. He's not on a business trip. He's with someone else, Miss S. Blackwell scoffed, her defense quick and sharp. You're driving him away. Always sick, complaining, needing things. What man wants that? That's no excuse for cheating. I shot back, anger rising. And do you think having his baby will fix things? No one in the family wants this child, Emma. Only you. Her words were like a physical blow. Get out, I said, my voice trembling now. She threw her hands up and stormed out, slamming the door behind her. The silence after was deafening. I sat on the couch, feeling numb and hollow. 30 minutes felt like an eternity. Each second ticked by with agonizing slowness, echoing the throbbing pain in my heart. My mind was racing, but a dreadful resolve settled over me. I had to face Tom, see the truth with my own eyes. Mike had given me all the details I needed. The Grandview Hotel, room 718, he'd said, his voice filled with reluctant professionalism. My hands were shaking slightly as I parked the car and walked into the hotel lobby. My stomach was in knots. I took the elevator, my heart pounding in my ears with each floor it passed. When the doors opened, I stepped out into a brightly lit hallway that felt too cheery for what I was about to do. Room 718 was just down the hall, and as I approached, I could hear laughter and the clinking of glasses. My hand trembled as I knocked on the door. "Room service must be here with the champagne," I heard a woman's voice, chirpy and carefree. After a few seconds that felt like hours, the door swung open. Tom looked out, his expression changing from anticipation to shock in an instant. "Emma?" "What? How did you find me?" "I know everything, Tom," I said, my voice stronger than I felt. Without waiting for an invitation, I pushed past him into the room. The sight that greeted me was like a slap. There she was, Olivia, half-dressed, scrambling to cover up, as if modesty meant anything now. Tom recovered from his initial shock, and his face hardened. "Why are you here, Emma? To spy on me? To beg?" "Beg?" I echoed, incredulous, feeling a bitter laugh rise in my throat. "I came for the truth. Not that you'd know anything about that," he scoffed, stepping closer. "You want the truth? Here it is. I'm not happy with you anymore. You're always so wrapped up in yourself and this." He gestured toward Olivia. Olivia, now somewhat dressed, smirked and added, "Maybe if you paid more attention to him, he wouldn't be with me." Her words stung, but it was his agreement, the nod he gave her, that twisted the knife deeper. "Yeah, you should be thanking us. We're just waiting for your baby to be born, then I can finally move on properly." The room spun around me, and a sharp pain stabbed through my abdomen. I doubled over, gasping, the shock and pain mingling into a nauseating swirl. "Tom, I think something's wrong," I managed to say, my voice a whisper of desperation. "Please, call an ambulance." He and Olivia exchanged a look, a quick, dismissive glance, and then he turned back to me. "You're probably just overreacting, like always." They dressed quickly, stepping over me as if I were just another obstacle in their path. The last thing I saw before darkness claimed me was the closing door, the click of it shutting echoing ominously in the cold, empty room. I woke up to the gentle yet urgent voice of a maid trying to rouse me. "Ma'am? Ma'am, can you hear me?" Her face swam into view as I blinked away the darkness clouding my vision. The pain was still there, a dull ache that seemed to echo through my entire body. "Where am I?" My voice sounded hoarse, foreign even to my own ears. "You're still in the hotel room, dear. I found you on the floor. I'm calling an ambulance now." True to her word, the next thing I knew, I was being wheeled through the emergency room. The hospital lights were harsh, blinding as nurses and doctors swarmed around, their voices a cacophony of concern that I could barely comprehend. They asked questions, too many questions, but all I could think about was the betrayal and the pain. Tom never showed up at the hospital. Neither did his mother. Calls went unanswered, their silence more painful than any physical wound. By the time the doctor came with the news that I had lost the baby, the grief was so heavy, so overwhelming, it was all I could do not to scream. The loss was not just a personal tragedy. It felt like an injustice, one that Tom, Olivia, and his mother had a hand in. They had abandoned me, left me alone at my most vulnerable. The bitterness and anger simmered inside me, brewing a storm. After what felt like an eternity, the hospital discharged me. I drove straight to our apartment and began packing Tom's things. Each shirt I folded, each sock I threw into the box, was a severance, a cutting of ties. With his belongings piled in the trunk of my car, I drove to Mistress Blackwell's house. I didn't bother with niceties. I unloaded his things right in the driveway, letting them fall wherever they may. I didn't knock. I just walked in. Mistress Blackwell was sitting in the living room, a look of resignation on her face. She knew why I was there. Emma, she started, her tone weary. You should just leave. Take what dignity you have left. Dignity? I laughed, but there was no humor in it. You think I came here for a lecture on dignity from you? He's my son. I stand by him and he will be better off without you, she said bluntly. He has excellent lawyers. You'll only embarrass yourself. At that, something snapped inside me. Do you even care that your grandchild is gone? That your son left me alone in a hotel room to lose his child? Her eyes flickered away, unable to meet mine. It's a tough situation. It's done, Emma. I stepped closer, my voice low and steady. How did you feel as a mother knowing what happened, knowing your grandchild was lost? She didn't answer, just looked away, a crack in her composed facade. I will see your son in court, I said, the words heavy with promise. You can tell him that. Turning on my heel, I left her sitting there, alone with the weight of her choices. As I walked back to my car, the cool air felt sharp against my skin, but my path had never been clearer. I would fight, not just for me, but for the life that was lost, and for the truth that needed seeing the light of day. Stepping into the courthouse, I felt every eye on me. Or maybe it was just the weight of what was about to happen pressing down. My best friend from college, Lucy, was right beside me. She'd become a shark in the courtroom, known for tearing apart even the slickest defenses. When I told her about everything, she didn't hesitate. I've got this, Emma, and don't worry about the fees. This one's on me, Lucy had said, her voice fierce and reassuring. We sat at our table, papers neatly arranged, evidence at the ready. Across from us, Tom and AmITheA looked confident, a smugness that irked me. As the proceedings began, their lawyer painted a picture of me as unstable, broken by grief, fabricating stories. The plaintiff has suffered immense emotional distress, yes, which has led to these wild accusations. There is no substantial evidence of any affair or wrongdoing on my client's part. When it was our turn, Lucy stood, her presence commanding the room. Your Honor, not only do we have substantial evidence, but we also have a testimony that will corroborate everything my client has claimed. She presented the photos first, clear and undeniable proof of the affair, passed around for the judge, and eventually to the opposing counsel, who looked visibly shaken as they viewed them. Next, Lucy played the video from the hotel. The room fell silent as the scene played out, me entering the hotel, then Tom and AmITheA laughing and hugging, then them leaving the hotel without a hint of concern. But that's not all, Lucy continued. She called the maid who found me to the stand. Her testimony was simple but powerful. I found her on the floor, unconscious. They were gone. Tom's face had gone white, and AmITheA couldn't sit still, her leg bouncing nervously. When they were given a chance to respond, Tom stood up, his voice shaky. This isn't how it looks. We were just scared and confused. Scared? So you leave your pregnant wife unconscious on the floor? Lucy shot back, her tone icy. The judge took everything into consideration, the weight of the evidence, the testimonies. After what felt like a lifetime, he spoke. I find in favor of the plaintiff, Emma Blackwell. The evidence of infidelity and negligence is overwhelming. I am granting a 50/50th division of all marital assets, as well as financial compensation for the emotional distress caused by the actions of the defendants. As we walked out of the courtroom, Lucy elbowed me gently, a victorious glint in her eye. How's that for justice? I managed a small smile, feeling a mix of relief and sorrow. Thanks, Lucy. I couldn't have done this without you. Life limped back to normal after the courtroom drama. I bought a small apartment, and every new piece of furniture, every picture hung, was a step away from my past. The only shadow that loomed over my fresh start was seeing Tom and Olivia together at work, a constant reminder of the betrayal. They were always whispering, laughing, and holding hands. One afternoon, as I was sorting through some legal briefs, my phone buzzed with a number I hadn't seen in a while. It was Tom's mother, Miss Blackwell. "Emma, could we meet? I need to talk to you." Her voice trembled over the phone. I hesitated, memories of our last encounter flashing through my mind. "Why should I meet you, Mrs. Blackwell? It has nothing to do with you. It's about Tom. He's done a grave mistake, and your company, please. I wouldn't ask if it wasn't important." Curiosity piqued, and a bit of old loyalty to the company that stood by me, I agreed. We met at a small cafe, away from prying eyes. She looked worn, her eyes rimmed with red as if she had been crying. "Tom, he's not the boy I raised anymore," she started, not meeting my eyes. "He and that woman, they're planning to cheat the company, sell off assets, and they want to force me out of my home." Her words hung heavy between us. I was still processing when she grabbed my hand, her grip surprisingly strong. "Please, you're the only one I can trust to stop this." The plea in her eyes was real, but so was my reluctance. "Mrs. Blackwell, your family drama is not my business anymore. It's not just family, Emma. It's your company, too. They're planning something big. It could ruin everything." Her urgency struck a chord. I was, after all, part of that company. It had given me a chance when I was just a college grad, and many of my colleagues were like family. "All right, I'll look into it," I conceded, more for the company than for her. Back at work, one started digging. I quietly pulled records and contracts, tracing the trail of transactions Tom and Olivia were involved in. It didn't take long to spot irregularities. The numbers didn't add up. Goods were being purchased at inflated prices, far above market value. Armed with evidence, I made my way to Mr. Harlow's office, laying the documents on his desk. I watched his eyes narrow as he scanned the evidence. "This is serious, Mr. Harlow stated flatly, looking up at me. "I'll handle this from here." "Thank you, Emma. You may have just saved this company from a significant loss." Leaving his office, I felt a mix of relief and anticipation. Walking past Tom and Olivia, I caught snippets of their mocking laughter. I couldn't help but smile to myself. Justice had a way of finding its path, no matter how twisted the road might be. After exposing Tom and Olivia, a full-scale investigation rippled through the company. As it unfolded, I was often called to testify, detailing every discrepancy and irregular transaction I had uncovered. The courtroom once again became a familiar setting, but this time I stood confidently, bolstered by the truth and the mountains of evidence that supported our claims. The legal battles were intense and draining. Tom and Olivia faced the consequences head-on. The company, having suffered significant potential losses, pursued justice relentlessly, culminating in a multi-million-dollar lawsuit against the duo. The verdict was as expected: guilty. The court's decision barred them from holding any senior positions in the future, a fitting end to their corporate malfeasance. Amidst the chaos, my own career took a surprising but welcome turn. The company recognized my efforts and promoted me to a senior lawyer, an acknowledgement that came with a significant award. One quiet afternoon, as I was organizing files in my new office, a spacious room with a view of the city skyline, my phone rang. The screen displayed a number I hadn't seen in a long while. "Mrs. Blackwell." "Emma, it's me." Her voice came through, tinged with humility, a stark contrast to our last encounters. I wanted to thank you for saving my home from being sold out from under me." Her gratitude was genuine, and despite everything, I felt a twinge of sympathy for her. "You're welcome. I did what I felt was right. There was a pause, a breath of silence before she added, I was wrong about you, Emma. So very wrong. I used to think you didn't deserve my son, but I've come to realize it was he who didn't deserve you. Her words, unexpected and raw, took me by surprise. Thank you for saying that. It means more than you might know. Could we meet? I'd like to apologize properly, face to face, she suggested, a hint of hope in her tone. I considered her request. All right, Miss S. Blackwell. Let's meet. We decided on a quiet cafe, neutral ground for what was to be a frank conversation. Sitting across from her, I saw the changes the months had wrought on her. Gone was the haughty demeanor, replaced by a somber reflectiveness. Emma, I'm sorry for everything. I was blinded by my own expectations, my own desires for Tom, that I couldn't see the truth. You were always the stronger person, and I admire that deeply now, she confessed, her eyes not meeting mine. It's been a tough journey for us all, I acknowledged, my voice steady. But your apology is accepted, Mrs. Blackwell. We talked more about life, about lessons learned. It was clear that friendship wasn't on the table, but mutual respect hung in the balance, a fine thread that connected our shared history. Leaving the cafe, I felt as if her words had lifted some of the shadows of the past. I walked back to my office, past the now empty desks of Tom and Olivia, a reminder of the bullet dodged. Their laughter no longer echoed through the halls. Instead, my own steps sounded a steady beat towards the future. A future I was going to define on my own terms. A future that had a space for happiness and for hope. The months that followed were a period of quiet rebuilding. I threw myself into my work, finding satisfaction in tackling complex cases and mentoring younger lawyers. My apartment, once a symbol of heartbreak, became my sanctuary, a space filled with light and laughter. Lucy remained my rock, dragging me out for dinners, movies, and the occasional disastrous attempt at salsa dancing. She filled my life with a vibrant energy that chased away the lingering shadows. One evening, Lucy insisted on setting me up on a blind date. Come on, Emma. You can't stay locked up in that office forever. This guy is great, a doctor, smart, funny, and totally single. What do you have to lose? Reluctantly, I agreed. His name was David, and to my surprise, he was exactly as Lucy had described. He had a gentle kindness in his eyes and a genuine interest in my life. We talked for hours about everything and nothing, and for the first time in a long time, I felt a flicker of hope, a possibility of something new. David was patient, understanding, and never pressured me. He listened to my story without judgment, offering a comforting presence that allowed me to slowly begin to heal. As the months turned into years, my relationship with David deepened. He became my confidant, my friend, and my love. He showed me what it meant to be truly seen and valued, and helped me to understand that I deserved happiness. One sunny afternoon, we were walking along the beach, the waves crashing gently against the shore. David stopped, turned to me, and took my hands in his. Emma, he said, his eyes filled with love, I can't imagine my life without you. Will you marry me? Tears welled up in my eyes as I nodded, my heart overflowing with joy. Yes, David, I will. Our wedding was small and intimate, surrounded by our closest friends and family. Lucy was my maid of honor, beaming with happiness. As I walked down the aisle, I couldn't help but think of the past, of the pain and the loss, but also of the strength I had found within myself to overcome it. I knew that the scars of the past would always be a part of me, but they no longer defined me. I was Emma, a survivor, a fighter, and now a woman deeply and profoundly loved. A few years into our marriage, a familiar feeling began to stir within me. Exhaustion, nausea, a strange sensitivity to smells. I couldn't ignore the possibility. One morning, after David left for work, I took a pregnancy test. As I waited for the results, my hands trembled. Memories flooded back of the joy and the heartbreak, of the hopes and the dreams that had been so cruelly snatched away. When the test came back positive, I burst into tears. Not tears of grief, but tears of pure, unadulterated joy. I was pregnant. This time, however, things were different. I had David by my side, a loving and supportive partner who cherished me and our growing child. We went to every doctor's appointment together, holding hands and sharing hopeful glances. The pregnancy wasn't easy. The past loomed large, casting a shadow of anxiety over every milestone. But with David's unwavering support and the care of my doctors, I was able to navigate the challenges and embrace the joy of creating a new life. 9 months later, I gave birth to a healthy baby girl. We named her Lily, a symbol of hope and renewal. As I held Lily in my arms, gazing at her perfect little face, I felt a sense of completion I had never thought possible. My heart overflowed with love, gratitude, and a profound understanding that even after the darkest of storms, the sun could still shine and new life could bloom. One crisp autumn afternoon, as Lily was taking a nap, I received a call from an unfamiliar number. Hesitantly, I answered. "Hello, Emma? It's me, Tom." My breath caught in my throat. It had been years since I had heard his voice. "What do you want, Tom?" I asked, my voice cold and guarded. I wanted to apologize. Truly apologize for everything I did to you. I know it's not enough, but I need you to know that I regret it every single day of my life. His voice sounded weary, defeated. "It's too late for apologies, Tom," I said, my heart aching with a mix of pain and indifference. "I know," he said, "but I also wanted to tell you my mother passed away a few weeks ago. She asked me to give you something. She said it belonged to your grandmother, and she always felt guilty for keeping it." He told me where to pick it up. I was hesitant, but curiosity and a lingering sense of closure compelled me to agree. A few days later, I drove to the address Tom had given me, a small, unassuming house on the outskirts of town. Tom met me at the door, his face lined with regret. He handed me a small velvet box. "She wanted you to have this," he said, his voice barely a whisper. "I hope it brings you some comfort." I took the box and without a word turned and walked away. Back at home, I opened the box with trembling hands. Inside, nestled on a bed of satin, was a delicate, antique locket. It was the locket my grandmother had always worn, a treasured heirloom that had been lost after her death. As I held the locket in my hand, tears streamed down my face. It was a tangible connection to my past, to my grandmother's love, and a reminder that even in the midst of heartbreak and betrayal, there was still beauty and kindness to be found in the world. I carefully fastened the locket around my neck, close to my heart. It was a symbol of resilience, of forgiveness, and of the enduring power of love. Looking out the window at Lily playing in the garden, I knew that I had finally found peace. The empty cradle had been filled, not with the child I had lost, but with the promise of a future filled with love, laughter, and endless possibilities. The story had come full circle, and I was ready to write a new chapter, one filled with hope, joy, and the unwavering belief in the power of the human spirit to overcome even the darkest of tragedies. Years melted away, blurring into a tapestry of everyday moments. Lily's first steps, her first words, school plays, scraped knees, and bedtime stories. David and I watched her grow, marveling at her spirit, her kindness, and her unwavering curiosity about the world. Lily knew about the past, of course. I had never hidden it from her, carefully tailoring the story to her age, emphasizing the resilience and strength that had allowed me to overcome adversity. I wanted her to understand that life wasn't always easy, but that with courage and determination, anything was possible. As Lily grew older, she began to ask more questions, probing deeper into the details of my past. She was particularly interested in the baby I had lost, the sibling she never had. "Mom," she asked one evening, as we sat on the porch watching the sunset, "do you ever think about what it would have been like if..." I knew what she was going to say. If my brother or sister had lived, I took a deep breath, my hand instinctively reaching for the locket around my neck. Yes, Lily. I do. I think about them often, but I also know that everything happens for a reason. Their loss, as heartbreaking as it was, made me stronger, more resilient, and it ultimately led me to you. Lily smiled, her eyes filled with understanding. I'm glad it did, Mom. I'm glad I'm here. Her words warmed my heart, a balm to the lingering pain of the past. I realized that Lily was more than just my daughter. She was my legacy, a testament to the power of love and hope to triumph over despair. One day, Lily came home from school with an assignment to write a family history, tracing our roots back through the generations. She was excited about the project, eager to learn more about our family's story. As we delved into the past, we uncovered tales of courage, resilience, and unwavering love. We learned about ancestors who had faced hardship with grace, who had persevered through adversity, and who had passed down their strength and wisdom to future generations. One particularly poignant discovery was a collection of letters written by my grandmother, the woman who had owned the locket. The letters revealed a woman of great depth and compassion, who had faced her own share of challenges with unwavering faith and optimism. Reading those letters, I felt a profound connection to my grandmother, a sense of continuity and belonging that transcended time and space. I understood that the qualities that had allowed me to survive and thrive were not solely my own. They were part of a long and unbroken chain of strength and resilience that had been passed down through the generations. As Lily worked on her family history, she became increasingly fascinated by the story of the locket. She asked me to tell her about my grandmother, about the baby I had lost, and about the events that had led to me receiving the locket back. I shared every detail, holding nothing back. I wanted her to understand the full scope of our family story, the triumphs and the tragedies, the joys and the sorrows. When Lily finally completed her family history, she presented it to me with a sense of pride and accomplishment. As I read through her words, I was deeply moved by her ability to capture the essence of our family's story, to honor our past while embracing the future. The last page of her history was dedicated to the locket, a symbol of love, loss, and ultimate redemption. Lily had written, "The locket represents more than just a piece of jewelry. It is a tangible link to our past, a reminder of the challenges our family has overcome, and a symbol of the enduring power of love. It is a reminder that even in the face of tragedy, there is always hope for renewal, and that even the smallest of objects can hold the greatest of meaning." As I closed the book, I looked at Lily, my heart overflowing with love and gratitude. She was my greatest accomplishment, the culmination of all the struggles and triumphs that had shaped my life. She was the living embodiment of hope, a reminder that even after the darkest of nights, the sun would always rise again. I knew that as long as I had Lily, and as long as we continued to share our story with future generations, the legacy of love and resilience would endure, carrying us forward through whatever challenges lay ahead. And in that legacy, the memory of the baby I had lost would live on, not as a source of pain, but as a symbol of hope, reminding us that even in the face of loss, love can always find a way to bloom again. The end.